would most Christians' objection to this be because they're Christians? That's why they're objecting.
No, it would not be the reason.
Okay, prove it.
You prove it.
Okay, here's my proof. Here, okay, well then you have just answered your question as to what value religion brings to marriage. You stupid.
Absolutely have not. Not at all. That's a cultural application. Christian culture, conservative culture, is opposed to what you just described. Nowhere in the Bible does it address that.
Well, wait. I'm sorry.
Hold on, Jake. Real quick, Andrew, I got Flo in the back.
Oh, geez.
I think he wants to converse about what you said that you disagreed with him on.
Okay.
Are you opposed to it?
Let's do it.
Can I just ask Andrew just one
Let there be blood sports, sir. Let there be blood.
All right.
Let's do it.
This conversation has been far too tame and far too relaxed.
Wait, did you have a question you wanted to finish up?
No, I was just gonna say, like, Andrew, for the sheer fact that even if you're in a secular marriage, wouldn't you say that in a marriage, wouldn't that lead to family values eventually leading to a better purpose, like within the church?
I think that's a good argument, right?
So,
and I think that other forms of hang on, I'm going to explain. I think that perhaps that could have been the case at one time, but at least with how secular marriage is structured in the United States, it can't be the case because homosexuals can get married, bro.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, no, I totally get you. And not only that, like lesbians, and we have a lot of shit going on here. But at the same time, does that still, even if there is gay marriage, is that still an excuse to say that secular marriage is pure on sin and it's an actual to reject that, Andrew? Like,
yeah, I think in its current form, it is. It's reason enough for me to say it's an inversion, and there's no two ways about it. Now, I think if you said this is a reflection of Christian marriage as done by secularists, we could make this argument, but that's clearly not what's going on anymore.
Okay. All right. I'll shoot it off the flow state. Yeah, go for it. Flow state, you want to go?
Sure. What up? Good to see everyone.
I'm kind of willing to die on this hill a little bit, you know?
Okay. All right. Because I'm just kind of
secular marriage is pointless.
Well, because that's what Andrew's kind of point is. My point is that I think that we shouldn't discourage marriage, and I'm kind of on the side with Lauren Chen to a degree. I understand Andrew's point of view here. I think Lauren just totally didn't kind of understand where Andrew's coming from, because I would say, yeah, I get you there, Andrew.
Well, I mean, she did because she conceded, right?
Yeah, she conceded, and then she took your talking points on Tim Pool right after that.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, but the point is that I'm just saying that
the damn Russians are learning too much from me, dude. The Russians are learning too much from me. It's bad.
It is really bad, Andrew. You are definitely the talking point of those Russians, Andrew. But I'm just saying, like, why would you discourage the marriage even with a secular point of view? I just don't understand why you would reject that if nowadays marriage is so rejected these days. I think we should, and I understand those points of views where marriage is a bad deal for men nowadays, but I am saying that we shouldn't necessarily from the perspective of God just say that that marriage, if you're secular, is a sin. It just kind of seems like it's kind of like over the top for me.
Well, could you consider it blasphemous?
I mean, I don't know. Andrew knows the Bible better than me.
I mean,
I don't know.
The argument.
Well, listen. This is I actually kind of agree with you, Jake. Right? Like, there's kind of a threshold here to the principle. Mm-hmm. So I think if we're adhering to the principle, and we were looking at Paul, for instance. Mm-hmm. Paul's like, look, you're in a secular marriage, right? But it's still better for you to stay married, to a person who's a secularist, because you could maybe convert them over to your way of thinking.
Yeah.
But the kind of reflection of what they were considering marriage then versus now, way, way, way different. And I think that if you get a person to really think about what secular marriage and modernity means, and just how much of an inversion it is, I don't know, man. I think that the second you say, like, okay, two gays can walk out and they're married, whereas the pagans were putting them to death. You know, this was not a thing, Paul. Yeah, so I mean, just saying.
Andrew, that's what I'm saying. You're totally right. Like, dude, you destroyed Lauren Shan, easily destroyed her. You destroyed.
Yeah, but again, that doesn't always mean you're right just because you win, right? That doesn't mean you're right because you win. I agree with that. I agree with that. And it's fine to have this contention. It's fine to have this contention, but I do think you're wrong. I think on this, it's such an inversion to what you and I would consider Christian marriage. I just don't see a good way around it. It seems like promoting it is like promoting Satanism to me.
But
the argument
be like in the Protestant, egalitarian churches? That's pretty much what they're already promoting, right?
I agree.
So
yeah, definitely.
Well, what Glenn was trying to say to you is he's talking about blasphemy against the Holy Spirit, right?
Yeah.
So he's saying, like, if you go and you do, what is considered to be a holy sacrament for the purpose of perverting it in order to mock the divinity of Christ, that's blasphemy against the Holy Spirit.
Yep.
I mean, what's the one unforgivable sin, Jay?
Yeah, blasphemy. when you know God this is the actual truth and you still reject it, right?
And you still reject it. Yeah, that's blasphemy against the Holy Spirit, rejecting the divinity of Christ, even though you know he's divine.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so that's what every single time you have a gay priest who says Christ is divine, but I'm a homosexual openly, and Christ actually secretly likes that, that's blasphemy against the Holy Spirit. There's no way around that, dude.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I thought, like, if anything, it would be blasphemous for secularists to get married, because it's only making a mockery out of the relationship.
Okay, I've literally been saying this for like I don't know how long, and everybody was just like eye rolling at me every time I would say that.
Yeah, I don't know if I see it that way though, Glenn.
But that's because you're Josie. I mean,
well, it depends on what
I knew
it.
I knew it.
Marriage primarily between you and God, or is it primarily between the couple? And so, obviously, between the couple that's the ground that secularists and religious people can agree on. That's the mutual turf.
Well, so I think I don't think Christians believe that the marriage is just between the couple. It's
under God, though.
Under God, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. The whole Christian paradigm is only essential if you hold that paradigm. But look at marriage, the commitment between a man and a woman transcends cultures, religions.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, now it's just something that I heard Andrew say, and I just wanted always to question him about that, because
I think that's fair.
With Andrew on that to a degree. I understand.
Well, I think that's fair. Look, I'm not by any means infallible. The opposite is true, in fact. And engaging on these topics over and over again, it only sharpens my edge. It doesn't dull it. So, by all means, if you have anything you want to tangle about, I don't take any of this personally. You know what I mean? Unless other people make it personal, and then I take it personally. But otherwise, I would rather just kind of stick in the arena of what it is we're talking about. And if you have questions or you want to tangle on it, then let's tangle, right?
Yeah, I think Flow State wants to tangle. He said, "I'll be your Huckleberry."
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I just threw out my perspective on it, and nobody picked it up. Right? Obviously, marriage is a commitment between a man and a woman that transcends religions, it transcends cultures, and the religious component doesn't add anything critical to that dynamic unless you are leading with the religious component already the primary thing in mind.
Okay, so I understand what you're saying. Let me. Do you mind if I steel man this, and then you can tell me if I got it right or not? Okay. So the idea here is that marriage is cultural, and because it's cultural, there could be a religious component or a non-religious component, or the religion can even have you do things for a marriage that could be sacramental but considered blasphemous, or any number of different dynamics. But you're basically just making a cultural argument here that marriage is just a, kind of a cultural thing?
I think that not really. I think that marriage is deeper than cultural. The family unit, I think, is ingrained in our DNA at even more of a primal level than culture or religion. And I think that it does function just fine, that commitment between a man and a woman, without any religious component.
Well, okay, then why not? Okay, well then why not polygamy?
Why not polygamy?
Yeah, why not polygamy? That's my question.
Yeah, no, I'm not making a case against polygamy. I think
so
God was okay with polygamy.
Okay, so why not a throuple, or why not? For instance, what's the problem with having one woman in a house with 10 gay men, and they fuck her and they all fuck each other, and they get her pregnant sometimes, and they all raise that kid together? Is there a problem there?
Well, it's weird as shit. But
wait, hang on.
Marriage.
Right? What do you mean? Why couldn't they all get married to each other? I don't get it. You just said polygamy was fine.
In religion either that prevents that.
Yeah, okay, but I don't know why you're moving the goalpost. So this is your position. This is your position. This is your position. So I'm questioning. Doing an internal critique on your position. So starting with your position, all of these people could feasibly get married under polygamy, right? 10 gay men could be married to each other. Hang on, dude, bro. Let me ask the fucking question first. Okay. Can 10 gay men be married to each other and also married to a straight woman, her, and get her pregnant from time to time under whatever system you think is appropriate?
No, not as
why
as I defined it.
Why?
Because I chose man and woman because it's accessible. We all agree that is marriage.
Well, I thought you just said polygamy is fine.
Sure.
If polygamy is fine, bro, okay, well then if polygamy is fine, why can't all these people be married together? I don't get it.
So for the sake of the discussion, I was using a man and a woman. You can bring in all the different ways of rearranging it.
I already did. Yeah, I already brought in all these things.
We have a stationary definition of marriage, which is a man and a woman, for the sake of discussion. And then at that point, the religious component doesn't actually add any.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's great. That's a great way for you to move the goalpost. Can I ask my question again? Is polygamy okay or not? No. In your worldview, is polygamy okay or not? Why would polygamy be outside of marriage in your worldview here?
Because for the sake of discussion, to try to illustrate the point,
I'm really sick of you saying for the sake of discussion. I'm asking your position. I'm literally asking your position, bro.
What marriage is?
Why do you need to know my position to know your position?
Well, you're challenging the man and the woman that I suggested.
I'm sorry, you came in with a position, correct?
Sure.
Okay, and your position is that polygamy is legitimate?
No, my position is that the religious component does not add anything to the dynamics of a commitment between a man and a woman.
Okay. So hang on. So I'm not going to quite let you evade. And so I'll make a deal with you. If you actually will allow me to run the internal critique, I will engage directly with your internal critique. So your internal critique is that religion adds nothing to a marriage. Obviously, this is easily refuted, and I'm going to be happy to do that. But I want you to not lie to me about your position either. If you lie to me about your position, you're being bad. Hang on, stop. If you lie to me again about your position, you're just bad faith, and I'm just not going to engage. So I'm going to ask you again: is your position that polygamy is okay?
My personal belief on the topic, or the position I'm taking right now?
Your personal belief on the topic, the thing I'm actually interested in, not whatever not whatever position you don't have that you want to argue. Your actual position, yes.
I believe that polygamy is less than ideal.
That's not my question, bro.
Sure.
What's my question?
It's not preferable.
Okay. So polygamy under your worldview is fine.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So then if 10 gay men all got married and they got married to a woman and they fucked her from time to time and they had a baby, what's your objection here to all of them raising this baby?
My objection is that has nothing to do with my premise.
Bro.
No,
what?
it doesn't. It doesn't.
What?
Doesn't.
I'm sorry.
What does the gay man example have anything to do with what religion adds?
Can you answer my fucking question, you gutless weasel? You gutless weasel, answer my question. What's the problem?
Your question is absurd.
Why?
Because it's sensational and it has nothing to do with the definition of marriage.
Well, who cares of how sensational it is? It's not illogical. 10 men under polygamy. 10 men under. This is going to, by the way, this is going to answer both of your questions. I just want to let you know, if you're actually good faith enough to answer mine, this will answer your question that you had for me as well. So real quick, if you have no problem with polygamy, which you said you didn't, you said it's less than ideal, but you have no actual qualms with it, then what is your objection to 10 gay men who butt each other every single day and also get married to one single woman, and they fuck her from time to time, they get her pregnant, and they all raise her as a family unit? What's your objection?
That is not a bond between a man and a woman. That dynamic is too diluted and unnatural to be stable in the way that a nuclear family is.
Great. So now, I just want to let you know, you would agree with me that Christians would be diametrically opposed to this, right?
Christianity is opposed to the gay component, not to the
polygamy. No, they would be opposed to 10 men getting married to each other and to a woman.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they would be diametrically opposed, right?
Yes.
Okay, well then you have just answered your question as to what value religion brings to marriage, you stupid fuck.
Absolutely have not. Not at all. That's a cultural application. Christian culture, conservative culture, is opposed to what you just described. Nowhere in the Bible does it address that.
Wait, I'm sorry. The religion itself, let's assume for a second Christianity is false. I'm just going to assume it. I'll literally just assume that it's completely false. But we operate under a paradigm in which the Christians of this nation would oppose such a union. Is that correct?
Ask the question again.
Even if Christianity was false, we still live in a culture where those who identify as being religious Christians would oppose such a union. Yes. Is that correct?
Socially conservative people would oppose that.
Okay, who identify as Christians, right?
Majority of them probably do.
Yeah, and they would base their objection on their Christianity?
They might defer some responsibility for it, but it's not actually a
Christian. They would base their objection on their Christianity, sir.
So
they would base their. You're gonna have to answer my question. Yeah, Steelman.
Okay, so your point is that because you assume that most Christians are opposed to 10 gay dudes fucking one chick, that is why religion is essential to marriage?
No. So let me reiterate again. And by the way, you didn't answer my question. You asked me one, right? You did it under the guise of a steel man, which is fine. I was happy to let you steel man. But I'm going to go ahead and ask you again. Would most Christians' objection to this be because they're Christians? That's why they're objecting.
No, it would not be the reason.
Okay, prove it.
You prove it.
Okay, here's my proof. Here's my proof. Most of the people who object to gay marriage do it under religious grounds. Yes or no?
Correct. It's a constitutionally protected grounds. It's legally strong grounds.
So most people who object to homosexuality reject under Christian grounds, right? Do you agree or disagree?
I would assume so. Sure. For the sake of argument.
Sure. Great. Okay, so they would be objecting to this union. And by the way, they object to polygamy under Christian grounds as well. You would agree with that, correct?
I disagree with that.
Okay, well then I would like you to look at the UN report. The UN recommends specifically non-polygamous societies. You can look up the UN and its stance on polygamy now.
We're talking about Christianity. Why are we referencing?
Yeah, I know, and because the UN did. I'm telling you, you idiot, shut up and listen. Because the UN references specifically that most of the objections to this is due to the fact that these nations are Christian nations and they don't want it.
Okay. That may be true. Christianity does not object to polygamy. The Old Testament's full of it.
Doesn't matter. Listen, hang on, bro. I'm just going to accept that whatever you think Christianity actually is, it is. It doesn't matter.
Do you think that the Old Testament's not full of examples?
It doesn't. It's totally irrelevant. Totally irrelevant. Doesn't matter. I'm just going to grant that Christianity is false. I'm granting it. 100%. 100%
I'm not even
false.
claiming it.
Has nothing to do with the fact that most people's objection to this would be based around their Christian faith. Whether their faith is correct or incorrect doesn't matter. They would still base it around this, and thus the result gets closer to your ideal version of marriage. And that's that.
You're blurring the lines between conservative.
Sorry, you don't have an argument, bro. Give me the argument.
I have a great argument. You just won't stick on the man and woman point.
I want to play devil's advocate.
Okay, now we'll stick right on the man and woman point. Go ahead.
Arthadiah, you had your turn. You shush.
No, I want to play devil's advocate. So let's say
Hold on, he just conceded this. Let me do this real quick.
Is it beneficial for society?
Arthadiah, let Flo go. Arthadiah.
Okay.
Marriages that all take pool
she's persistent.
Support each other.
A man and a woman, the unity between a man and a woman, the commitment between a couple, right, to stay together through life, is not something that needs a religious component for that commitment between the two of them to be legit to each other.
Logically, that's true.
So teleologically, then
well, hang on. When you're talking about telos, we're talking about two different things now. So when you're talking about purpose, when I talk about telos in regards to marriage, I am not a Catholic. Roman Catholics use a teleological argument, not myself, nor Orthodox.
Is teleology synonymous with pragmatism?
No.
Okay. Well, the pragmatic benefit that marriage has to society, right? To the couple primarily, to the family, another degree of separation, and then to society as the structure that underpins its stability. All those benefits are consistent with the nuclear,
and you're saying that is the nuclear cross-generational family unit, right? Just to be charitable.
Sure.
Okay, so the nuclear cross-generational family unit is the structured backbone of society. That's what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, I completely agree. So if a religion reinforces that, then it's supremely beneficial to your worldview, right?
If it successfully strengthens that, sure, it would be beneficial to that.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. So then if Christians are against polygamy, and I just gave you evidence that they are, and that the UN itself decries polygamy, the liberal UN decries it based upon this factor, and also that Christians oppose gay marriage, which is in opposition to nuclear marriage, or to the nuclear family, then your argument's destroyed.
No, my argument holds completely firm.
How?
Your argument is that Christianity strengthens a good thing. That good thing is not dependent at all. There's no crucial component added by Christianity.
Well, then tell me why secularists can't just do whatever they want with marriage. Absent an ought, why can't they just do whatever they want? I don't get it.
As can Christians.
Well, then, no. Christians can't because they have an ought here. They ought not do X. Secularists have no such ought. In fact, what is the ought?
They have an ought, but they have the free will. Christians.
What is the ought?
They have an ought
for the secularists.
Every time they follow the ought, it's their decision in the moment.
What is the secularist ought?
In a commitment between a man and a woman, it would be to be faithful and committed to the man.
Yeah, why ought they do that?
Because they care about the other person.
Yeah, but why ought they care about the other person?
Why ought they care about God?
Yeah, stop answering my questions with questions. Just answer the question. Why ought they care about another person?
I don't know. I suppose that's the end of the why in my mind.
So you don't. So you don't know why they ought to care about each other, but you know that they ought to get married to each other.
They do care about each other if they get married.
Yeah. That's a descriptive. I'm asking ought.
Why?
So ought they care about each other?
If they're married, if they choose to get married, then yes.
That's not my question. This is before they're married. Ought they care about each other?
Before marriage? Just strangers?
Well, I mean, I'm guessing that most people care about each other before they get married.
Sure.
Ought they?
You ought, care about people close to you.
Okay. So ought you find a person to get close to?
If that is what you want, yes.
Okay, so then there's no ought.
There is no ought. The ought stops
there. There is no ought. Yeah, so there's no ought. So the thing is that we do have that. Christians do have an ought. Now, you can argue and say the ought is false. It's irrelevant. They still have the ought. You ought to get married. You ought to do these things. So there's an underpinning there that this ought be done.
So do you
think the secularists, the secularists cannot provide an ought. So therefore, this idea that you have for a nuclear family is just completely based around subjective whims.
But nevertheless, people still do seek out partners. So do you
think but that's a descriptive. That's a descriptive claim. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think that if you had no moral premise, if there was no such thing as what you consider to be objective morals, I think most people wouldn't follow oughts. They do whatever they wanted. Sure.
But when people do whatever they want, we still see them tending towards long-term pair bonding.
No, we don't. And I've never seen a society where people do whatever they want. Neither of you.
Well, not entirely.
No, you've just never seen it because it's impossible. So
your position though implies that without these rules, these oughts, the externally imposed oughts, that people would not be doing things that we see people do without the ought.
No, that's incorrect. So descriptively, I think that some people would do various things that I think they ought to do, even without an ought, just because they feel like doing that thing. But so what? That actually is not a good case for your position. It's a worse case for your position. So your position here is just saying sometimes people will do things that I also agree with without an ought. Yeah, so what? Frequently. The underpinning, no, not frequently. That I disagree with. In fact, when I look at the historicity of marriage, almost all of it's done under some kind of religious purview. I'm not aware of any societies really where secular marriage is even a thing, except in modernity in the West.
Are you aware of any societies that are entirely secular, except for modernity in the West?
I've never heard of one, no.
So that would be the reason. There is no alternative.
Well, no, there's always been an alternative. What do you mean? Not to be secular, or not to be religious.
I've seen it happen in secular society. And I'm saying there is no example of secular society except for modernity in the West.
Yeah. So what?
So of course you wouldn't see an example where.
Yeah, but so what? So all the underpinnings of what it is that you want for marriage always come from religious societies. That's my whole point.
All societies have been religious.
Great.
So your claim that's a correlation, absolutely not a causation.
So what is the causation of marriage if you have no ought then?
Whatever people get out of the reassurance, the support.
Could it just be
you don't really think that people are getting married because the Bible says so. The Bible says.
Well, yeah, I do think that for the majority of people now, especially, are mostly getting married because they believe that is the proper way under their religious ethics to conduct themselves, and that secularists are getting married less and less because they have no ought, and the data bears this out.
Do you feel that
I don't feel anything. I'm talking about data.
Does your data show that a marriage based on an ought is stronger than a marriage based on people wanting to?
Yes. So the more religious a person is, and Pew Research will back this up, After I can pull this up right now, the more religious a couple is. Now, it's not to say that religious people or self-ID'd religious people don't get divorced. They do all the time. But interestingly enough, in the data, at least from Pew Research, the more religious they are, the less they get married, or the less they get divorced, and the stronger the strength of the union seems to be. And the outcomes for the children are much better as well.
Protestants have the highest divorce rate, 51%.
Yeah, doesn't surprise me. They're also the least religious. Least religious. Whereas Mormons, on the other hand, why don't we look up the divorce rates of the Amish, sir? What do you think those are going to be?
Mormons are 9, Jehovah's Witness are 9, Orthodox Christian 9%, all 9s.
What about the Amish? What about the Amish?
Amish, I don't see Amish on here.
What about the now move to the more religious correlation? So the more religious you are as an Orthodox, the more religious you are as a Catholic, the less likely you are to get divorced. So just saying Catholics get divorced at this rate isn't telling us enough. We have to know if the religiosity is what is keeping these marriages together or not. And yes, the more religious they are, the less they tend to get divorced. And by the way, for secularists, because this ought does not exist, they don't even get married at all. And why should they? They have no ought.
Well, that's secular or atheist divorce rate is 2%. It's the second lowest, but that does beg the question of whether or not that's just because they're not getting married.
It doesn't beg the question. That is what is happening. And why should they? You have no ought. So tell me this. Let me just ask you directly. Why should an atheist man get married in modernity? Why?
An atheist man should get married if he and his partner want to, primarily for their own well-being, for the couple's well-being. Well-being is increased through marriage. Secondarily,
for so imagine me saying, why should you masturbate? And you say, you should masturbate if you want to. Yeah, but that doesn't answer the question. I'm assuming you want to. I'm asking why you should, even if you want to.
That's not an obvious assumption if we're dealing with oughts as well.
Can I ask something?
Well, I'm not making an assumption. I'm asking a question. And the question that I'm asking you is, why should they? And what's the benefit? In other words, for an atheist man right now in modernity, don't you think that he's disincentivized from getting married?
Yes. Yeah, probably.
Yes. Yeah. So atheism itself and secularism itself literally runs contrary to what you want to see in marriage. The incentivization seems to only come from the religious ought.
I'm not supporting incentivizing marriage where people are not wanting to enter that. I think that that's a worse paradigm than
but I think that people are wanting to enter into it. And what's going on is, unless they're religious, right, they don't see a reason to enter into it. That's my refutation here.
So they want it. Say that again.
So I'm saying that the religious will continue to get married even if there's disincentives to not get married, and atheists won't, which seems to run contrary to your view that, if this is an important thing that they want to do. It does not seem to be a particularly important thing that they want to do absent the ought, whereas for the religious, it seems to be very important. So it seems to be a pillar of marriage is the religiosity itself.
And I would say that all the benefits of a couple being committed to each other over a long term can be accomplished without formal marriage. So what I'm hearing is that religious people are being encouraged into doing something that is against their best interest.
Because they have an ought, right?
Because they have an ought.
Okay, so then therefore, the bedrock for this thing is the ought that you should do the thing. It is not the bedrock of you should do what you want. So what we've established here is that religion seems to be the pinnacle groundwork for marriage because we have an ought to do marriage. Secularists do not.
So what if I make the argument and pretend?
Well, hang on. I'd like to hear the counter syllogism here.
Well, I feel like we're just sort of looping back onto our positions now.
Well, we are, because I haven't heard a counter syllogism. You just seem to agree with me.
No, I disagree with you. I've stated why, and you just keep insisting your point.
Well, no, I'm not insisting a point. I'm just looking for a counter syllogism. So, like so here's your syllogism. If atheists get married because I want to get married, my syllogism. If Christian get married because you're commanded to get married, which one do you think in a society is going to lead to more marriages?
Marriage, if that's a formal religious-based contract like you're describing, then obviously
even a state contract, Doesn't matter what type of contract.
I don't view the formal contract as the important part of a marriage or the beneficial part of the marriage. I view
then what is man and the woman. And what is it? What is an atheist marriage? You just declare you're married? You just like wake up in the morning and you go, I have declared that we are married, and then you're married?
Come in, love.
Sure.
Well, then, okay. So hang on. I just want to make sure. So then, if atheists want to get divorced, they just hold up their finger and declare that they're divorced.
How is that different from Christians right now? Yeah, I mean,
Christians adhere to generally an ecclesiastical authority, right, of some kind.
I don't know how the Orthodox Church does it, but I know that most white bread Christians here in the Midwest, they get married just as easily as anybody else, divorced as well.
No. You said absent the state. So there's no state. Let's assume that there's no state. Okay, there's no state marriage certificate of any kind. You would agree with me that Christians would still go get married by their church, right?
I agree.
Okay, so if that is the case, what are atheists doing? They just hold up a finger and say we're married.
They would be living in long-term commitments without the church rubber stamp.
Yeah, so they would just self-declare that they're married.
Right.
And then they would self-declare that they're divorced.
Yeah, when they decide to get divorced, they would.
I have no idea then how it is that you think that this would be a bedrock for the nuclear family. I have no clue.
Because that is already what it is. That is always what it has been. The fact of the matter is
that's not always what it has been. It's always been an authoritative commitment given by somebody and witnesses which declare it so.
Which is initiated by the couple requesting it.
So what? That has nothing to do with anything. In both cases, and no, not always. And by the way, I think you forget. I think you forget about arranged marriage and betrothals, and that through most of human history, marriages were arranged. It was not couples who decided this for themselves. They were arranged based on the localized demographics. That's most marriage in history. So you're absolutely wrong there, sir. Absolutely wrong.
You're right. I was only dealing with current Western free will, society. Are you proposing that arranged marriages would be a good?
Oh yeah. Arranged marriages are superior, probably. Yeah, I think so.
I agree. I think we have.
I hope all your dads have good taste.
Well, I think we have put too much priority.
Well, okay. Let me ask you a question. You would agree with me that historically people got married around 15, 16 years old?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You think that they were going to be good at selecting their own mate, or what?
Probably better than somebody not in that marriage would be.
Oh, really? So let me get this right. You think that 16-year-olds right now in modernity are better at selecting their own mate? You think they select good mates? Would you? So let me give you this scenario. Mm-hmm. Two random 16-year-olds come up to you. You've never met them before ever. And they say, we fell in love and we're going to go get married and stay together forever. And I came to you and I said, okay, you can gamble your life savings on this. Okay. And if you're right, you're going to get quadruple your life savings. If you're wrong, your life savings get drained. Which way would you bet?
I would bet that they're not going to stay together.
Yeah, no shit.
But if you have an alternative scenario where two golfing buddies come up and they go, hey, my son's going to marry your daughter because I like golfing with you. Mm-hmm. What odds would you give that?
I would give it a much higher odds, because then they would have peer pressure and family dynamic pressure, which would keep that marriage together.
And I view that as a less desirable paradigm for everybody, including the people in it and all of society.
What if it led to better outcomes?
If it led to better outcomes, I'd reassess my situation. But
it always led to better outcomes. I mean, arranged marriages have always lasted longer than non-arranged marriages, and why wouldn't they? The people who, no, it's not just a divorce. We're talking about happiness as well. You do realize that we have literally millions upon millions of documents from medieval Europe and from cultures which existed not very long ago, including in our own from the 1700s, where arranged marriages were quite common.
Right.
And these people were quite happy, right? They were quite happy with each other. Yeah.
I haven't read all the literature on it.
It's interesting. Self-partner.
contrary.
Well, that was a political marriage. That's different. Political marriage is different.
That would be exactly the same as a golfing buddy marriage.
No, it wouldn't, because now you're adding additions like this woman, we're no longer selecting her for fertility and beauty and things like that my son would want, or his status and social status, things that my daughter would be interested in. It's not like the kids couldn't weigh in. They did all the time. Now you're adding hang on, stop, bro. Let me finish. Now you're adding things like, okay, even if this woman is fucking super ugly and can't bear you any children, she's the head of a crown state and it's going to greatly expand our lands. And it adds an entirely new dynamic to this formula.
Wouldn't that increased external pressure be beneficial to the marriage?
It was beneficial to some of the state arranged marriages. King Henry was just upset about it. But it also adds a brand new dynamic that most people didn't have to deal with. Most of this was all localized, right? Pre-internet, almost all relationships were localized. And I would even argue that up until the internet, most marriages were arranged. That most of the time it was the parents insistently interfering with the children and trying to find them various partners with other children that they thought were in good standing in the community. I think that this is very common, clear up until the internet.
Like a soft arrangement or something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would say the family had much more of an influence on who you got with. They said like statistically 40 to 50% is our divorce rate now. When they were having an arranged marriage.
Well, let me also offer this. Let me also offer this to you, Flow State. Maybe we can find some common ground here. I would argue that people who are emotionally invested in each other don't see nearly as clearly what's going on as people who have no emotional investment and are outsiders looking in.
Yep.
That they can see quite a bit more clearly than the people. So saying, okay, this guy gives me butterflies, but he's in the mob, right? But I just can't help but open my legs for him because he's dangerous and blah, 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 blah. That's actually counterintuitive. And that if parents had more input and say, they would keep their kids away from men who were like that. Could they get it wrong sometimes? Sure. Mm-hmm. Right. But I would argue that, clear up till the internet, that most marriages had some arrangement component to them.
Like if you look at contrast, right, arranged marriages is primarily what they do in India still. Like 90% of marriages are arranged, and they have a divorce rate of 1%. Yeah,
but that's a little different because we're dealing with a caste system as well. So
true.
That's a whole different ball game. But I would just make the argument here in the United States that even in the early 90s, throughout the 80s, 70s, 60s, that most marriages were still very much localized, and that parents were consistently interfering and arranging these things on the back end constantly.
Yeah, that was when courtship was still very prominent.
So,
yeah, I think I got Grumpelstiltskin who wanted to come up and ask about marriage. He had a point he said he wanted to make.
Okay,
what was it, Grump? You're muted, Grump. Grump, you got to take off the mute button.
Yep. There we go. Professional streamer here. Can you all hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Outstanding. So I just had I wanted to make a clarifying point because it feels like it might make things easier for like a lot of these conversations. I never hear anybody else bring this up. So marriage, it's a two-parter here. So marriage is, depending on your denomination, a sacrament under God for a multitude of reasons, including with the good of the couple, the generation and education of children, etc. Marriage is also, and as far as I understand, a contract under the title system that confers a set of benefits under government structures intended for population growth by encouraging procreation, including tax subsidies and social security benefits and things of that nature. The reason I bring it up is these are two very separate things, but they have the same name. And I think
it's a word concept fallacy.
Yeah.
So the idea here is that I reject the latter and embrace the former.
I very much understand that you do. I agree with you on almost everything, dude. I got to be honest. The thing is that not everybody understands the difference between these two separate things that have the same.
I agree. I agree. And so I try to make these distinctions, and the easiest way that I can is by say state marriage versus sacramental marriage.
That's a note. I got nothing else to add on that one, man.
Yeah. So I mean, that's usually how I make the delineation. I think most people understand when I say state marriage versus sacramental, that's what I'm referencing. But I agree with you. I agree with you that additional clarity might be needed, right?
In most, I just never hear anybody make the distinction. Which if you do, hey, I didn't hear it. I probably got in late, but thank you for doing so.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, do it all the time.
Hey,
but yeah,
I got a bone to pick with this liberal fucking Andrew over here.
All right, cheeks.
Kuma.
All right, Andrew, you liberal cuck. I want to know why the hell are you against the death penalty?
Oh yeah, it's my one progressive position. Dude.
Really?
I'm such a fucking softie. Yeah, I'm such a softie, dude.
That's some bullshit. Let's fucking get it out.
Actually, I want to hear this because I'm for it.
Okay, so here's the truth, right? It's like I'm a miserable fucking bastard, and I was maybe born that way. I was maybe born an ornery, miserable son of a bitch, right? And it's literally only through grace, I think, not just of God, but through the grace of my wife and God, that I'm even human enough to have discussions with low IQ people like Akuma, who don't deserve even a second of my time. And because I recognize and am probably the greatest in the world at being humble and recognize this about myself. I'm kidding, right? Shit, can you guys still hear me? I'm sorry.
Yes, we got you.
Okay. Sorry. One of my ears died here. So I think that we should always err on the side of reform before anything else. I think we should always err on the side of reform. And the reason I got into debate in the first place, ultimately, my goal is to have as many conversations over and over and over again, if necessary, to move reform. And so I would rather err on the side of reform. Like I've been asked this a million times. You really think that there's people who just aren't beyond redemption? And I think there probably are. But I don't know who they are. It's not for me to determine who they are. And I'd rather just keep trying again and again and again and again and again and again and again endlessly until I've exhausted everything I can possibly do to see that reform.
But Andrew, don't you think that a murderer or somebody that does bad things to kids, like the risk is still there? I think life imprisonment is actually more.
Well, so like with pedophilia, for instance, chemical castration is 100% effective.
I like that.
Well, I mean that's a legitimate treatment. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
Even in the United States, it's a legitimate treatment. Chemical castration seems to cure this 100%.
I just think life in prison.
And so hang on. So if somebody has a predilection towards this fucking horrific thing, I would still prefer to not kill them if I can cure them.
Yeah, that's a no for me, dog.
Well, it's not a no for me. Right. So I mean, for me, Jesus Christ died in the most horrific way possible, so that fucking stupid degenerate like me could reform. So if that's the case, it's just hard for me to see how far gone a person could really be. I was never, I don't think, really very far gone, but gone enough, I guess. But other people who are super far gone, I still think that they can reform, man.
I understand. I understand that concept. Hey, I understand that, Andrew. Trust me, and I can see why you feel that way. But when you have been around the really vile people that are beyond redemption, and there's only one way for them, man. I can never disagree with the death penalty. even if you have to be judge, jury, and executioner yourself. It's just no fucking way. You can't do that, man. Like you just can't. You can't disagree with no death penalty when you see the most violent predators on, just walking around willy-nilly in society doing whatever they fucking wish until they get caught. No, I don't. I just can't. I will never be down with disagreeing with such an act.
My thing is, I think like life in prison is probably more unhumane than the death penalty.
Yeah, well, I'm not after. So I'm not after endlessly punishing people. I'm after reforming people.
Well, so you're all down for the
I think
for the torture.
I think that people can be fucking absolutely viciously horrible and reform into very good people. I've seen it time and time again. And so since I've seen this so many times, I would prefer to err on the side of reforming. There's serial killers in prison right now who are going to die Christians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
we didn't kill them. We didn't take them right outside in the yard and put a bullet in their fucking head.
So you're saying that it's better to give them the opportunity to, as long as they live, they have the opportunity to. Well,
here's what's really interesting. I'll tell you what changed my mind on this is I was reading letters back and forth between a very prolific serial killer and one of his victims, and he murdered this woman's children in front of her. After he did unspeakable things that I'm not going to mention on this stream because it'll get it banned instantly, but it was quite horrible. And this woman spent 15 years writing letters back and forth. Most of the letters back to her were taunting her with what he did to her family. And she continued and continued and continued. And he reformed. And, he found what salvation he could, right? But she found great closure in this. Far better closure in this than taking him out in the yard and putting a bullet in his head. Now, am I saying that it's unwarranted? The death penalty is unwarranted in every situation? No. Let's say you're a soldier, you're running away from battle, you get shot. Okay, that's the death penalty. Dereliction of duty, right? We have to make an example out of you so that our other troops don't run away. I understand the logic behind it. But if we can, in all cases that we can, I would prefer that we didn't and erred on the side of reform.
Well, I prefer never to get shot at ever again. And let me tell you,
Chief, stop trying to break into my house.
I'm just gonna let you know the whole death penalty thing. Yeah, that was just a strange stance that I took, especially from a gun enthusiast. I was like, so if you're against a death penalty, someone breaks in your house, what are you gonna do, Andrew?
Well, I'm gonna kill him.
Yeah.
So okay, that's all good. Clearly,
he's protecting
Andrew.
He's defending his
but there's no contradiction there, right? So I would state that in all cases of self-defense, especially if you're protecting another person, that the lethal option is a legitimate option, especially if you're protecting yourself or your family. But now let's say somebody came in and they horribly murdered my wife. I might be predisposed to go to court and demand the death penalty, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that would be a good thing to give the person the death penalty. If through a series of reforms, this person can be changed and move towards salvation, I would prefer that.
Andrew, honestly, what you're saying is a really it's a really big thing to say. I had this same conversation with a friend of mine. The same death penalty. He wanted the death penalty. I believe in reform is the same thing. And I asked him this question. And I'm going to ask you this, Andrew. If you had the chance, if you could decide, anyways, do you believe if Hitler, do you believe a man like Hitler could be reformed?
Sure.
If given like a million, I know he killed 6 million Jews, or
the answer is yes, of course.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, I did a lot more circumstances than that, but yeah, I totally 100% agree with you, Andrew, that I see a lot of these people that say, There's another story of a man that his son was raped by a man, and I believe he was waiting at a train station. This rapist got caught, and he pulled out a gun, shot the man that raped his child, and he got 6 months in prison by the judge for that.
But so here's the reason. I gave you the reasoned and consistent answer with my ethics, right?
Right. Yeah.
Now let me still. I'm going to be fair and temper this with a contradiction in terms, right? My intuition contradicts with this. My intuition is, I'll just put them up against the wall and be done with it, right?
Yeah.
And so when people say, like, this person did heinous crimes, we're going to take them out back and we're going to put one in the back of their head. It's really hard for me to object, right? It's really hard for me to object. I'm just like,
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Go for it.
Right?
Go for it.
Okay.
I'm not going to defend the guy. I'm not going to defend the guy.
Yeah. Not going to defend him.
Yeah. Yep. That was exactly my argument when I had this guy, when I told him about the man that his child was raped by that individual and he killed him. I said, the judge gave him 6 months. And I said, yeah, can't really argue with that. I said, yeah, go for it. I would have gave him fucking 3 months, to be honest. Can't really object to that. However, I really wish that he would have had the chance to reform. And I think everybody deserves that. And honestly, Andrew, I'm really kind of shocked by your answer because I've never really heard that from any individual. Anyways,
well, the question is could there be reform without Christianity? Without one accepting
no, definitely no. I think coming back to God, that's the whole point. Even in our judicial system, the whole point of prison, they have the Bible there, is to reform, is to not necessarily find God, obviously, but it is to reform, at least come back to society as a better person. Christianity is we hope for that, but however, it's not always the same result for every prisoner. But we do hope for that, and I think a lot of prisoners that do reform do Christianity.
But I mean, the Coomer here makes a good point, right? It's like maybe the one bleeding heart progressive policy that I actually kind of agree with, right? Mm-hmm. There had to be one, right? There had to be at least one.
But I don't think it's a left. I don't think it's a left. Like I really don't think it's a leftist policy to a degrey.
Well, I think it intersects. I think it intersects with leftist policy. Let's put it that way.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Leftists don't like accountability on any fronts, so that would be an intersection.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But rightists don't.
But but let's be completely fair, right? Like if you drug like every provable murderer, rapist, and kid diddler out of their cell tomorrow and put a bullet in their head. Yeah, I tell you that was morally incorrect, but I wouldn't lose much sleep about it. I wouldn't lose much sleep, right?
I get it, dude. I totally get it. I wouldn't either. I've seen those stickers that the cure for a PDF file is a bullet to the head, and I'm like,
my thing is like, keeping them in prison also as a punishment for the taxpayer.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, definitely.
That's a bumper.
Unless it's a private prison, right?
Well, unless it's owned by, unless the private prisons are owned by like record label owners.
Yeah. Oh, the thing on this, just I don't think it's a cutoff there because, as famously quoted by Storm and Norman, and then I think quoted by the Punisher, it's forgiving them is God's job. It's our job to simply arrange the meeting.
Yeah, right? I've heard that saying. Yeah, that's a badass saying to fucking kill somebody before you do. Yeah, totally, bro.
Like
I've seen priests. I've seen priests literally going in and people on their deathbed. I've seen this with my own eyes. You know what I mean? Still sitting there praying with them right up to the end, right? Trying to reform them right up to the end. And sometimes they do. Right at the end, they do.
Yeah, my grandfather.
And it's like, okay, if there's the chance of that, then I'd prefer to see that. That's all I'm saying. And Andrew,
Andrew, do you think that, I mean, regardless of when somebody expires, that if that person was like on that person's timeline, because God knows what everybody's going to do, right? Do you think that redemption or forgiveness, if that person's soul was going to be, if that person was going to just ran out of time, was going to redeem, that, I mean, God would know and be judged according to that, right? I mean, that's what I'm really not all that bright, but that's what I think would happen. That
would conflict with free will. So this is kind of an endless argument between determinists or non-determinists. The truth is like, I don't even know the answer to this question, right? I don't actually even know the answer to this question. The truth is like, there's a lot of things I'd like to think, right? Like I'd like to think that I have a lot of this figured out. But then every time I have a new theological discussion, I have all these advanced answers for many of these questions. And then a basic question will just completely throw me off. And I'm like, what the fuck, dude? What was an example recently? There was one, it was a stupid question by Brian on whatever. I don't even remember what it was, but it ended up opening this massive can of worms. And I was arguing with, I don't know, 3,000 or 4,000 people were in the chat at the time. And we were just endlessly arguing about this. It was, me versus, I don't know, like 2,000 people live. And it was such a dumb question. I remember when he said it, I was like, what a stupid question. And then 30 minutes later, I was retracting it and going, I really thought that was a stupid question. Turns out I'm a fucking idiot and got this, got this all wrong. Right. And so I'm constantly having to kind of go back to my own presuppositions and get them right. You know what I mean? Because, if you debate people professionally all the time, my job is to represent the worldview the best that I can and to win on that worldview. And I do that very, very, very well. But the reason I do is because every single time I'm proven to be wrong or have a bad argument, even if I win the argument, I'll still go back over it and be like, okay, man, well, here's how I could have lost that. And so now I need to really look at some of my presuppositions here that were totally incorrect. You know what I mean? They were just not correct. And so, sometimes a basic question like that will really fuck me up. But and it makes you realize, like, as much as you think you know, right? You don't fucking know shit. Right? You don't know shit.
Dude, I can't wait for you and Dean to fucking debate, dude, so he can stomp you the way Destiny did, bitch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Destiny totally and he leaves. What the fuck? All right. Well, I'm gonna take off too. Andrew, I love your answer of what you gave with the death penalty of eating cheeks.
Hang on, was that beating cheeks who's talking shit?
Yeah.
I love that guy. He's still pissed off that I gave him the Akuma name. You know what I mean?
Totally, Andrew. But yeah, Andrew, I have even more respect for you of your answer that you just gave with that question. Yeah, much respect, Andrew. I'm going to take off already. Glenn, thank you for having me.
Take it easy, Jake.
Yeah, take it easy, and God bless everybody. Have a good one, guys.
Hey, Jake.
See you, man.
I know Josie wants to come up and ask a question. What up, Josie?
Hey, what's up? I got quicker wait time at a DMV.
I don't want to leave on a sour note. I was just fucking with Andrew, man. Love you too, bro.
Oh yeah, no, don't. Nobody's taken seriously. At least of all me, man. It's always nice. I know.
I just want to let everyone know the fucking. Yo, man, chill.
It's always nice to see you, man. We'll chat soon.
All right. Hey, thanks for the heads up on the help out, man. We're gonna definitely get in touch more on that.
Yeah, no problem, man. You take care of you, and we'll stay in touch.
All right.
I'll see you, man.
Take care, cheeks.
Well, guys, thanks for letting me on the panel tonight. It's 5 a.m. I need to go to sleep. I had planned on staying up this late for TikTok invasion, and hopefully my camera's cooled off now enough where I can do that again tomorrow. Otherwise, I'll have to switch to a backup. But
yeah. Oh, Andrew, I wanted real quick, if you can. What are your thoughts on the term sexual immorality being the reason for divorce and not it being like adultery? Because there's adultery is one thing, but when Jesus says in Matthew 19, sexual immorality, there's a lot of things that fall under sexual immorality that don't have nothing to do with adultery.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with the delineation. I don't see why anybody would have a problem with that.
So I hold the belief that I think that if a sexless marriage is a form of sexual immorality, and then that would be a reason for divorce.
Well, I mean, depending on reasons, right?
Yeah.
Let me give you an absurd example, but one that I actually know of. So this is crazy, but it's true. Okay, so I had a member of my family, and he's a very, very, very large man. He's 6 inches past 6 feet, and he's very, very, very much well endowed. Okay, and he married a woman, beautiful young woman. They absolutely adore each other, and she's about 4'9", roughly. Very tiny. Very petite. Yeah, very tiny. Huh. And she was in a lot of pain because of their coupling, let's say, and they had to stop during their consummation of this thing, and she actually had to have surgery so that they could do the deed, right? She actually had to have surgery so that this could be done. Now, she was happy to do it, right? And they had their happily ever after. But she was very cautious around intercourse after that. but do I blame her? No. Right? No. So I think all these things are dependent upon reasons. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So just saying a sexless marriage, well, there's always a little more to it than that. There could be some reasons behind that which are worth exploring as to why that is the case, other than just, well, it's because she's a stupid bitch, right? Which by the way, there's a lot of that. Right? Yeah. There's a lot of that. But I'm just saying that that's why everything has to kind of be evaluated on a case by case basis, and why we can make some of these generalizations. There also has to be some specificity, right?
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I was just thinking
would you say in that situation that she was a dereliction of her wifely duty because she was in a lot of pain because of this?
No, I say there's a medical reason.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say that that's a legitimate reason to withhold sex or be very cautious, and it all worked itself out, right?
Yeah.
But it was I mean, what a hell of a thing, right? What an outlier. But what if what if you're in a Muslim nation and the demand was well, just take it, bitch. Right? And it's this doesn't seem to kind of correlate with what it is that we're trying to avoid here. Yeah. So, when you're talking, I actually think that your term there, sexual immorality, makes more sense than just using the kind of more narrow term of adultery, because it's going to encompass far more things, which we can dive into for specificity.
Yeah, you could throw bestiality in there, homosexuality in there, that's all sexual immoral behavior. Mm-hmm. And the only place that sex is prevented and looked at as a good thing is in marriage. So sexual immorality would be having to remove sex out of the marriage. So if there's no sex in a marriage by somebody's choosing not because of a health issue, I would think that would be sexually immoral inside the confines of a marriage.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, for sure. I think specificity here matters.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's just no doubt that there's a control apparatus which sometimes will happen inside of marriages. I mean, it's happened inside of my own, right? Probably not nearly as much as in many people's, but where there could be kind of a petty fight for control, and women do have sex as kind of a weapon for control. Yeah, and so this kind of gets into the internal power dynamics of the marriage, and it's now we have the man saying, "Well, I didn't sign up for this," and the woman says, "Well, I didn't either. So I'm withholding this thing as kind of like a bartering tool, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I think that that's pretty fucking horrible. So,
Yeah.
and I think that that's what you're kind of alluding to, right?
Yeah.
And so
that's Corinthians, right? The
where
one.
Well, yeah, Corinthians 7 verses 1 through I think 8 talks about that the man is not, you know, his, you know, or his wife. The wife's body is not hers; it's her husband's, and the husband's body is not his; it's his wife's. And the only reason they should separate is if they, for agreed amount of time, that's committed to fasting and prayer. But they should join back together after that, so that the devil doesn't tempt them.
All right, guys. Well, I'm going to sleep. It was a nice convo. Thanks for letting me on your panel tonight, Glenn. And thanks for the invite. I very much appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
I kind of re-edited the last clip I sent you. You know, where you're debating yourself. I think I got a little bit
call
better.
me. Give me a call tomorrow too when I'm up and around, and we'll talk about clips and stuff. All right, I'll talk to you.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
All right.
Take it easy, Andrew. Have a good night.